Hello? Oh, you have Section 8? Yeah, we don't rent to people with Section 8. So if that's you, you can't do that anymore. It is against the law, at least in Michigan. So it just passed through the state of Michigan that you cannot say that anymore. It is called source of income discrimination. And we're waiting on our governor to sign it. And in this video, I'm going to break down what does this mean? There's a lot to this. I'm not going to give you all of it, but I'm going to give you a link to my blog where you can read the law yourself and talk to your lawyer, because I'm not a lawyer. So I'm Monique Burns. My husband and I buy houses in Detroit, Michigan. I am in northern Michigan because I have really great Section 8 tenants that hardly ever call us, and they have been there for a very long time, and I am a fan of Section 8. But we started doing this, buying properties in Detroit in 2007, and we've been slowly working on our own portfolio, and then we got out of our business. We used to have a floor covering business, and we decided let's just start flipping houses for people. We've been doing that for quite a while now, and we sell maybe 1 to 2 houses a month because we're also still building our own portfolio. So if that is something that you are interested in, contact me. Here's a way you can contact me through Calendly. We aren't selling very many, and we're only selling to cash buyers right now. But let's get into this whole source of income stuff. So what is it that we cannot do exactly? And unfortunately, I have to read some of this because it's a law and I don't want to get it wrong. So number 1, denying or terminating a tenancy. So I've heard of this where people will get on Section 8 and their landlord will call and say, I'm not doing it. Just not doing it. You got to go. So you can't do that anymore. If you're a landlord and you're doing that, you cannot do that. Number 2, denying them a rental unit or making it unavailable to them when they would otherwise be eligible to rent it. So otherwise, they are qualified. They are qualified in every other way. They have the credit score. They have 3 times the income. They have a great landlord record. What is your thing? What do you do to qualify a tenant? Whatever your list is, if the only thing was that part of their income is from Section 8, or there's other things, I'll get into the other sources of income too. You can't say no. You can't do that anymore. Okay. Number 3, attempting to discourage the rental or lease of a rental unit to them. Hi, I have Section 8. Oh, it's a dump. You don't want this place. Let me tell you, the landlord's a real jerk too, even though you're the landlord, pretending or whatever. No. You can't do that. When they announce that they have Section 8, don't do that. Number 4, kind of similar, falsely representing to them that a rental unit is not available for inspection, rental, or lease, knowingly failing to bring a rental listing to their attention. Oh, I have this other one over here though, like, no, I don't have any, or refusing to allow them to inspect a rental unit. So that's like just saying, no, we don't have any, you can't lease this, you can't do that. Okay, number 5. This one is terrible. Making a distinction or restriction against them in price, terms, fees. So let's go over that. Oh yeah, that house, that's suddenly $5,000 a month. Did I tell you that? Yeah, that listing's wrong. No, you can't do that just because you just heard they have Section 8. Terms, well, yeah, that one's a 10-year lease. Yeah, good luck signing that. Fees. Oh, you got Section 8? Well, we sure do have a lot of fees. We've got a move-in fee now, and we've got, your application fee, that's $800 because, it's really hard to check out a Section 8 tenant. You can't just make up new fees. Okay. Number 6, making a distinction or restriction against them in the provision of facilities or services related to the rental, lease, or occupancy of a rental unit. Well, yeah, we take Section 8, but you can't use the swimming pool. And, it's an apartment building, but we don't want you in the front door. You got to use the back door. I mean, this is sounding like, what I'm sounding like? That's bad. That's an embarrassing part of our history. And if there's a landlord out there doing this to people with Section 8, shame on you. And, shame on you. Number 7, you can read it yourself, but what they're saying is you can't pick and choose the income. If you have a rule that your house, you require people to have triple the income to the rent. So your rent's $1,000, you have to have $3,000 a month in income. when you're looking at the tenant's income, you can't say the income that you're looking at is only the income that they make on their own, because they usually have a job too. You have to include what Section 8 is paying you as part of their income. That's the point of Section 8. So you can't pick and choose which income you're taking. Hold on a second. Thank you so much for watching this. The biggest thanks you can give me is a subscribe. A like is awesome. Your comments, I try to keep up on them all, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to get into what is source of income, and I have to read this to you. So this means housing assistance, housing choice voucher. That's the politically correct way of saying Section 8. They have a housing choice voucher. It's the nicer way to say it. Public assistance, veterans benefits, Social Security. I love it when people have Social Security. I'm like, yay, you can't get fired from that. That is really good to me. Supplemental security income or other retirement programs and other administered by any federal, state, local, or nonprofit entity. Which begs the question, so is there some kind of other income that's not federal, state, local, or nonprofit? So what is not a source of income? And it says income the prospective tenant cannot prove. So I'm thinking like, okay, so you're talking somebody that's self-employed. Oh yeah, I make $5,000 a month with this job. All right, let me see your bank statements. And then they don't have their bank statements. They can't prove it because they did a lot of cash. That's how self-employed people do it. They have a lot of cash. They can't prove it. They can't be like, ha ha ha, source of income. Or let's say they're a drug dealer or a prostitute. They can't say, you can't ask me where my money came from. There's that new source of income law. So it doesn't include them, and it doesn't include those self-employed people. But now here's where it gets really dicey, and you really need to talk to an attorney. Or in Michigan, the lobbying group that we have is RPOAM, and they're going to do some educational things, and they're going to go around the state and educate all of us about all of this. So that would be an organization. I'll give you some contact there of what organization I'm talking about. You can ask this specifically, not me, but let me read this to you. Number 2, housing assistance that is not approved by the appropriate agency within 30 days. So I'm like, okay, so Section 8, you filled out their paperwork, you give it to the Housing Commission. They're saying the Housing Commission has 30 days. Now let me finish. Within 30 days after the landlord provides all the information required as a condition of the agency's approval, including evidence that all repairs required before occupancy have been completed. So this one is up for interpretation, but the way that I read it is you can't say no because I can't take you because I don't want to wait 30 days. This is kind of telling landlords you have to give Section 8 30 days. That's 30 days of no income. What? But it's saying you have to give them at least 30 days to get through 2 inspections, which is usually 2. Rarely people pass on the first inspection. You know how inspectors are. So you got to give them 30 days to process your paperwork, get the inspection done, pass the inspection. And if the Section 8 doesn't do all that within 30 days, you don't have to accept the Section 8 tenant. Now, in Detroit Housing Commission is very slow. They have never put in a tenant in 30 days after receiving the move packet. Someone will probably argue with me about that. I don't know. From my experience since 2007, I have not seen it ever. They're always going through upheaval. Like they just lost their whole inspection department. They had to train a whole new inspection department. Oh my gosh. So you want to know what happens if you do that? We don't accept Section 8. If you do that, this is what they say. Damages would mean actual damages for injury or loss caused by each violation. So I'm thinking, what's that? 1 month's rent? Or up to 3 times the monthly rent for the rental unit or units at issue, whichever is less, together with court costs and reasonable attorney fees. You're in trouble. You are in big trouble. Don't say that anymore. So then I started thinking, here's the law, and then here's what's really going to happen. And I don't know the answer to what's really going to happen. I really hope that you are reading this yourself. The link to my blog is in here. They read it yourself, interpret it yourself, ask around. You might have a rule that a tenant has to come up with their security deposit and first month's rent before you give them the keys. But I'm like, okay, but what about that 30 days? So can you hold that rule up if you have to give Section 8 30 days? I don't know. Or you could be somebody that refuses to sign the HAB contract, and that's the contract that you have to sign if you choose to have a Section 8 tenant. And I did make an online course to help people figure out how Section 8 works, most specifically how to do this in Detroit. And one of the things I did for my course was I really went through the tenancy addendum, which is attached to every contract when you have it with Section 8. And I took it all apart because I realized I've never read the thing. I just sign it because I love Section 8. I don't know what it totally says, so I totally started studying it. And one of the things it says is if your house goes into abatement, meaning you failed 2 inspections while the tenant is living there, Section 8's not going to pay you anymore, which I understand. I could understand that policy. But let's just say the tenant did all the damage and you just want to get rid of the tenant. You can't collect that rent from the tenant. What if you're not willing to sign that contract? There's a bunch of stuff in that contract. What if you're just not even willing to sign it? What happens then? You know, I don't see how they can force us to sign a contract. So I'm curious, what do you think about this? How do you think it's going to actually play out? If you have a credit score requirement, there are a lot of tenants who are not going to meet your credit score threshold because they are in survival mode. Before they get in Section 8, they are just trying to survive. They don't have the privilege of worrying about their credit score. But I took a fair housing class and I need to do more digging on this. But in this fair housing class, I couldn't tell if they said it's the law or they're trying to make it the law. It seems like if it were the law, I would know this. But one of the things they said is you cannot take a credit score and say this is for everybody. And their example was somebody with a disability won't be able to meet your credit score, such as an alcoholic. And alcoholics are considered people with disabilities. So I'm like, okay, so if they're saying that, and I'm saying someone on Section 8 has just been trying to survive, how can you keep them to a credit score? That's so unfair. I wonder if there's an angle that fair housing could have. Like, you can't do that. Nothing under a something credit score, and hardly any people on Section 8 have that kind of credit score. They might say you should use a different criteria for people on Section 8. And then what's the look back period? You know, I mean, it gets very complicated. So seriously, what do you guys think about all this? Please comment below. I love it when you comment.